One of the biggest things that we are tracking here on TechPath is the idea of fast charging in the EV space and really exploring some of the technologies and the companies, both in startup phase, but also the mature companies that are developing some pretty interesting technologies. We're going to jump into that today. My name is Paul Barron. This is TechPath. With me today from Israel is Mr. Doran Myersdorf, who is the CEO and founder of a company called StoreDot. Great to have you on the show.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, Doran, tell me a little bit about, StoreDot. I mean, obviously, we've kind of read all the research. We've looked deep into what you guys are doing in comparison to some other companies. Give me your, 30,000-foot view of StoreDot and what you guys are after.
Okay, so we are trying to solve the number one barrier for adoption of electric vehicles, which is the range anxiety. Some people also add the charging anxiety, where you're either gonna get stuck on the highway, which is really scary, or you reach a charging station and there's a long line, or you need to wait for a whole hour. So what we are aiming to do is to take the lithium-ion battery technology and improve it such that it would enable an extreme fast charge, XFC capability. And in order to do that, we need to change the materials of the lithium-ion battery. So we are all about the materials that go into the battery that goes into the vehicle.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk in the material science for battery technology. I don't claim to be an expert here, but I've seen enough of what Elon is talking about on Battery Day. I've seen QuantumScape's angle on, the SSD model. We've seen a lot of different angles. Of course, nano-wire silicon, of course, is one of the big ones that people do believe is going to be the future, which is kind of in your bullseye. Tell me a little bit about your technology around nano-silicon and how it can potentially really kind of extend the charging speed.
Right, so silicon actually has much better energy than graphite, which is the original active material in the anode, which is, part of the Nobel Prize in 2019 in chemistry. For good enough and all. What they did was amazing, but the speed of charging was not part of their design. What we are trying to do is to leverage on this amazing innovation in the lithium-ion technology and replace the graphite with silicon. Now, for silicon to be able to fast charge, it really needs to be in a nanoscale, because if you take a large particle of silicon and you inflate it with ion, it may detach from the surface as a big particle, like a balloon, and create a safety hazard and what have you in terms of performance. So what we are doing is we are reducing this big basketball of silicon with many, many golf balls. This is the nanotechnology that enables us to control the swelling of the silicon as the ions are being inserted during the charge.
That was one of the very topics that Elon talked about, was trying to overcome, was the swelling of the materials themselves, and how do you deal with that on a pack and, with the new 4680 and all of those kind of angles. So that particular issue, have you guys solved that problem, or are you on your way to solving that problem?
So it's not exactly the same problem, because Elon is trying to take the silicon in order to extend the range and to give you a cheaper battery, which is maybe a side effect for us. We are focused, and this is what differentiates us, we are focused on giving you 5 minutes full charge of the entire vehicle. Now, this is something really different, and that's why we have to use nano-silicon, while Tesla can use the large particles, let's say micron-sized particles.
So there's a couple of companies, Amphius is one here in the United States that's kind of going this direction. If you looked at the two technologies, I'm trying to kind of get an understanding of where the market is heading. With what you guys are doing at StoreDot, is it very unique, or are we seeing some new technology and material science emerging around the world right now with similar results?
I think what's common to all these efforts that you've mentioned and others is the understanding that we have to replace graphite in the end. So silicon seems to be the winning candidate. By the way, our first generation used a different metalloid called germanium, which is much more expensive, but it did prove the point that if you use metalloids, all these are under the carbon. You have the tin, the silicon, the germanium. All these are actually known for high energy and high diffusion rate of the ions. So silicon is definitely the future. Each company is trying to approach it from a different direction. What's unique about us is that we also bring in the organic synthesis capabilities into the equation. So we are coating and protecting the silicon with protective compounds.
Interesting. So that's going to give it some different states in terms of being able to charge quickly. I know you guys did one of the first successful tests back in 2019, getting the 5-minute charge on a 2-wheel EV.
Correct.
Talk to me about where the tech has come since 2019 to where you are now.
So I think the most important thing is that we took it from the lab to the actual production lines, mass production lines that are not ours, in China, of our joint venture partner for the manufacturing, which is a major hassle because you have to adjust the machines. We are doing very thin coating. We are dealing with organic materials and nanotechnology that they have never used before. So bridging this gap from the lab to mass production lines is something I think that no other company was able to do.
Yeah. Your background with SanDisk and also across the globe in being able to spin up companies and scale, because I noticed in one of your background that you had basically put 40 different manufacturing facilities online in a period of a few years.
Right.
With this kind, because there's going to be a huge demand for a product like this. If this rolls out to this level, every EV car maker in the world is going to be looking at your company and this kind of technology to kind of go. Do you think you can scale to that capacity?
So absolutely, this is the perfect question because, this is why we focus on manufacturing, because just to do a product in the lab is not sufficient. You can have the great technology, but if you don't have the captive capacity, meaning the ability to take it to production, and especially that the entire market is going to go into major over-demand over the next 3 to 5 years just because of the demand for electric vehicles. There are not enough factories out there. So our business model is these joint ventures like we have done with Eve, and we are talking to others in the UK and also in the US to make sure that we have these agreements in place that would allow us to guarantee capacity to our manufacturing partners and to the OEMs of the EVs.
So the technology is definitely going in the right direction. I mean, everybody's talking about silicon as the base and really kind of replacing this whole infrastructure around it and moving away from, the typical lithium-ion, constructs that we use in charging. Talk to me about the cycles, because that's kind of one of the things that everybody's worried about in battery manufacturing is being able to get in Tesla's case, the 1,000,000-mile battery, being able to get those number of cycles up. How does this technology hold up in terms of cycle degradation?
Right. So you're right that this is a big risk for the silicon, the tin, the germanium is the cycles. What we have proven in Gen 1 is that you can, with much innovation, take it from 100 to 200 cycles to the ballpark of 1,000 cycles. And this is what demonstrated with these samples that we have released, and they are coming out of a mass production line. So again, it's not a laboratory experiment. And it takes several breakthroughs. It wasn't one. We've done binders that are new. We've done proprietary additives to the electrolyte. We've done a very thin coating structure. So there's a number of things that you need to fine-tune, and they do take a couple of years. And this is why, we won't be in mass production in the vehicle before 2024.
Yeah, so you're seeing this still 2 to 3 years out before we see mass production at a level that can go into true EV manufacturers. When you look at the kind of companies that you're looking to partner with, obviously you're scaling with these partnerships in China and maybe around the world. As you scale those and we start to see supply chain kind of roll out, are there particular car companies or market sectors that you feel your product might fit better to? Because there's a lot of things happening in micro EV. Even the 3-wheel EV market is growing, has the potential to grow huge around the world. How do you see that? I mean, because you have different tiers of what the EV market is going to be in the next few years. Where do you see you guys fitting in?
So we've done much research into that, and we decided to focus solely on the passenger cars, the
Okay.
sedan. This is where the major problem of the user experience of basically the driver that is coming to the charging station. So we are
Right.
optimizing the miles per minute that a driver would get in the charging station, with the initial target of 20 miles per minute in the charging station, which is also the target of the DOE for 2024.
Yeah. Talk to me about 1 giga and where you guys are going with that.
So 1 giga was the idea that we need to guarantee capacity. So the captive capacity would come from various sources, some of them through joint ventures, some partnerships, but also investing in actual capital equipment and building facilities. So we are looking for the right location for our facility. It will actually scale to 10 gigawatt hour. So we have several potential locations, but what is also critical, and I've learned this over the years, we cannot do this alone. We have to partner with a tier one manufacturer that has already done this before and knows how to run these gigafactories without losing money in the first 2 years, because it does take time to stabilize such a large facility.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing as we start to see the battery manufacturers really shake out, because this is the big one. We can only do so much with wind and solar. Obviously, we've got to have something to be able to store all this this power in. And I think manufacturing is going to be the key. And just like if you look at Tesla's market prowess, manufacturing has kind of been the one thing that has really separated them from the pack, especially if they go into developing, well, not if, when they go into developing their own battery solution and then taking off basically as much production as some of the companies like Samsung and those guys can produce. Right. That's going to be interesting to watch. Are you looking at direct partnerships with some of the EV manufacturers that are in early stage right now, companies like NIO, Lucid, et cetera?
So yes, so Daimler, for example, is one of our strategic investors. And obviously, they are the first candidate to work with. But we are talking to all the other major players, including the other German OEMs and the US OEMs. Absolutely, everybody is interested in extreme fast charging. Everybody understands the stress that the driver has when they drive the vehicle.
Have you seen this Harvard research, if I get this right, this new organic model that they have discovered or developed, I guess, which is, the nickname was Methuselah quinone, I believe. Have you seen any of that research and whether or not that has any potential in the fast charging space?
So I have seen, and I do see much research going into batteries and energy storage in recent years. What I've learned is that it does take major effort to take such innovative technology from a university and then into a lab and then into a manufacturing facility. So definitely there is potential, and we might even leverage on such research down the road, especially as we move to post-lithium technologies. But right now, we are focused on the silicon-based solution that we have right now.
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk a little bit about the market, because EVs obviously are still worldwide, with the exception of some parts of Europe where there has been mass adoption. But some of the major markets, obviously China is still growing very quickly, even though not necessarily in comparison to their market or their total population size. Obviously, this is a big market. Do you think 2024 is going to be too late, or you think you're going to time it just right for when the electric vehicle explosion could occur?
So, the hockey stick is still not here. We see, roughly 2% adoption right now, and we are looking maybe at 5% next year, maybe 10% in 2025. So I think we are actually hitting right at the eye of the storm. So perfect. 2024 is actually perfect timing to start rolling out the fast charging technology.
Yeah, and I think, obviously we're seeing so many new manufacturers coming to market. Obviously Lucid's big move with their SPAC and that rollout, and more are coming, and we've seen so much happening in the space. Kind of to that point, does StoreDot have a plan to potentially go IPO at some point?
So, absolutely, we are looking at the sentiment in the market, especially around batteries and electric vehicles. And even though we still have much cash in the bank, it is an opportunity for us to look at what's happening, and we are investigating this route as well, yes.
Yeah. Sounds like Kathy Wood needs to take a trip over to Israel and check what you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
and see if we can't get you guys get moving a little faster. Let's go a little bit around other EV trends that you potentially see there. Obviously, you've got insights into Europe that are probably quite a bit unique. Are you seeing, because many people believe that the smaller EVs are the ones that will essentially dominate for the bulk of the industry around the world in the next 10 years. Do you kind of see it that way as well?
I see that the batteries may be smaller, but I don't see the cars getting smaller. People are used to, the convenience. They're used to, being comfortable with the entire family in a sedan. So I don't think we'll see many, many smaller cars, but we will see packs that are the 50 kilowatt hour, 40 kilowatt hour range that are actually, maybe if they can fast charge, you don't need the 300 or 400 miles. Again, assuming you have the charging infrastructure in place, so you won't get stuck somewhere without a station.
Yeah, for sure. With the kind of this period of time right now, we're dealing with a lot of manufacturers, including some of the German manufacturers, such as Porsche, going into the 800-volt system versus the 400 volts that what you typically see in Tesla. Will your technology kind of be able to deal with both of those applications?
Yeah, absolutely. The 800-volt is a great idea, and it does help with the current because you can reduce the current and manage the heat better. So for the charging station, this is a great solution that we will definitely leverage. We are focused on the battery itself that receives the power from the charging station. So we will adapt to whatever charging infrastructure will be there. Again, it needs to be very powerful. So we are looking at 350 kilowatt plus charging stations.
Wow. Okay, so that is definitely get into the supercharger zone for sure. And I can't wait till this technology is out there, because this is going to completely transform the industry, especially if we start rolling out at volumes, because this is something that many people, pundits, kind of talk about. If Tesla, which is currently the market leader, obviously, if they come out with their $25,000 vehicle and they drop, 1 million of these on the road, the charger networks themselves are going to become a little bit more congested. So you're going to need the ability to fast charge.
Absolutely, and this is why we've also partnered with BP. They're also a strategic investor in StoreDot, and the whole rollout of the charging network, including by ChargeMaster, which is the largest infrastructure player in Europe that they've acquired. And if you recently saw, there is Aral in Germany that is also a subsidiary of BP. Together, maybe with Daimler, we can do a really nice rollout of the entire technology with the ecosystem active players participating.
Yeah, for sure. I think as we start to look at these developments, it's going to be kind of cool to watch for sure. Last question I have for you is the physical structure of the pack itself. We've seen, the models of the 4680s going into Teslas, the future Teslas. People like Sandy Monroe, who's kind of deconstructing that whole thing, and how that unit and that unibody, all one cast or potentially multicast, are going to kind of play in. How would your technology fit into an electric vehicle construct in terms of physically?
So we are also building a 4680 solution. The pack design that Tesla did is amazing, and we do want to take some leverage on that and demonstrate full 5-minute charging of cylindrical cells with 4680 with the right cooling. So we are doing that as well on top of the pouch cells that we already have.
Yeah, very cool. This is pretty cool stuff. I love what you guys are onto. It sounds like, the first time I looked at this, I thought, oh my gosh, this is science fiction now. It's becoming real.
It is real. It is real. Come and visit our lab. They're amazing as well.
I love it. It's so great to see companies that are out there really pushing the edge of the envelope when it comes to innovation. So congrats to everything you guys are doing there at StoreDot.
Thank you very much.
All right, Doran, thanks for stopping in today. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. You bet.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we're going to, of course, continue our research and a lot of our coverage in reference to the EV, AI, and overall tech markets. As you guys know, we kind of try to push in that direction. It's something here new on the Paul Barron Network here on YouTube. But make sure if you have something in terms of a company or an innovator, early adopter kind of technology, somebody that's really kind of stretching the space a little, we'd love to hear your thoughts and also your input on maybe who we should get on the show here. We love to do these CEO interviews, as you can tell. It feels like you can get a lot more in reference to the companies and what they're all about when you can get into the mind of some of these innovators and scientists. So make sure and send us a note to producer@revernetworks.com. And also you can hit me up on Twitter, and that's just @Paul Barron. And of course, you can always leave a comment down below here on YouTube. That's another place that we do read those, and we try to do our best in getting you the most information and the most accurate. But as you can imagine, even though my background is computer science, this is new technology that's really innovating at a pretty much a breakneck pace right now to keep up with what could be a complete revolution on our planet around vehicle movement and what is going to happen, I think, in terms of just electric in general. So we try to do our best there, but do send us notes. We love the comments, and make sure and subscribe, smash the like button so you can get notified of more content just like this. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.